Emil Guillermo. Emil, Amok to you. This is show 610. If you're counting, 610. Now, that means something if you're in Dallas. No, actually, 610 is really Houston, right? Loop 610, that's Houston. So it means something different if you're in Houston. It means something different if you are in San Francisco. 610. 610 was like KFRC. The big 610. Oh, God. Those were the days, huh? When radio was radio. It was terrestrial. None of this digital stuff. And we'd have the top 40 just drilled into our heads. 610 KFRC. I love it. And DJs were DJs. Do we have DJs anymore? I mean, DJs are like the guys at the parties, but on the radio, I mean, we still have DJs like that, but they're not really DJs. Not like back then. 610 KFRC. Dr. Don. Those are the days. Those were the days, man, radio. And now we're doing this. Now we're doing things like this over the, as they say, the interweb. We're just doing it digitally. How are you? Welcome to my Emil Amok's Takeout, my takes on all things considerable. We're just the day before Thanksgiving, right? We're just like cleaning it out because we know that on Thanksgiving we're going to like stuff it all back in. I mean, that's it. Get out your elastic waistband pants out. Thanksgiving is around the corner. I mean, you can fast. I mean, it might be a good idea to fast on Wednesday, most of Wednesday, and then get out the elastic pants Wednesday night, and then go into Thursday and say, "Here I am." Just stuff it down me. I'm ready for it. But it's not so bad if you're vegan, because then you can eat to pretty much you can eat to your heart's content. I mean, really, you can eat to your heart. That is true. You can't eat to your heart's content. I think. I mean, we'll talk about that. Talk about Thanksvegan. It's a new thing PETA is doing, calling it Thanksvegan. Day you give thanks, unless you're a turkey. So the whole idea is give the turkey something they can be thankful for. I mean, more than what Joe Biden did. I mean, generally, I like Joe Biden, but I have to admit, pardoning two turkeys, talk about symbolic gesture, right? He pardons 2 turkeys, but 45 million turkeys are being killed to meet the demand. It's a supply and demand thing. So the supply is there. They've killed 45 million birds because the demand, 85% of Americans want to eat turkey on Thanksgiving. Man, maybe if we can like reduce that number instead of 85%, maybe make it a 50-50 thing. Half want turkey, half want something else. That would imagine the reduction of the number of dead birds. You wouldn't have 45 million. Maybe you get down to 20 million. That's still a staggering amount when you think about it. And you think about how these birds are put through the mill at the factory farms. It's ridiculous. It's painful. It's cruel. And you're going to give thanks to that? I mean, the turkeys can't give thanks. Why should we? I mean, really. Thanksvegan. The PETA podcast dropped today. Check it out wherever you podcast. I talked to Marissa Price, who's with PETA 2, which is a younger group. Millennials, Gen X, Gen Z. Not big PETA, the boomer group. But she talked about Thanksvegan and why they're doing it. It's important because we're giving thanks. And everyone gets to give thanks except the turkeys. It's not right. It's not right. In fact, as I mentioned in the podcast, the president always pardons a bird, 2 birds. But maybe we ought to be pardoning our own bird. Self-pardon. Self-pardon your own turkey. I think that makes sense. That makes absolute sense. Anyway, it almost makes sense like the hostage deal that was announced. I mean, it worked its way through Tuesday, finally announced Tuesday night. It's here. We're going to get it. The hostage deal, Israel and Hamas, a temporary ceasefire. They were wrangling over the term. Well, is it ceasefire? We don't want to give in to ceasefire. We'll call it a truce. Is it truce? Here's the AP's lead. A temporary ceasefire agreement to facilitate the release of dozens of people taken hostage during Hamas's raid on Israel is expected to bring the first respite to war-weary Palestinians in Gaza and a glimmer of hope to the families of the captives. Israel and Hamas agreed to the 4-day halt, which was announced Wednesday, and will also see the release of Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. The deal, brokered by Qatar, or Qatar, if you will, Qatar, the U.S. and Egypt, was made public as fighting intensified in central neighborhoods of Gaza City. Egypt's state-run Kahira TV channel said the truce would take effect Thursday morning local time. Now, so there, the first 6 graphs, they use truce, they use ceasefire. They didn't use pause. All these words are important. You know, how they're used, how they're tossed around, because words matter when the diplomacy is like hairline. You just, because that's all of the opening that you have to make your point and to get to some kind of agreement. That's why these things, to get to this point was pretty incredible when you think about it. But I mean, what choice? I mean, Netanyahu, he doesn't, he'd like to get out. He's not very unpopular. And he's really, truth be told, more of a puppet of the United States. The United States has more power than it, but it doesn't use it all because it's diplomacy, right? And so it was going to happen. The question was, what would Hamas do? How would what would their side of the equation be? And so these negotiations, very tense. We have a situation where more than 11,000 Palestinians have been killed, according to health authorities. And then Hamas and other militant groups abducted 240 and killed at least 1,200 people. So the numbers, are the motivating factors here for folks. Qatar announced that Hamas will release 50 hostages in exchange for what Hamas said would be 150 Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. And those released by both sides will be women and minors. And so we'll see how it goes. Israel said the truce could be extended by a day for every 10 additional hostages released. And so it's like a doling out of hostages for time in not peace, but truce. The goal should be peace, but no one's talking about peace. And while all this is going on, of course, Netanyahu is saying, we still want to eliminate Hamas. So how do you have both things going? Hamas said hundreds of trucks carrying the humanitarian aid and fuel are to be allowed to enter Gaza every day as part of the deal. Supplies would also reach northern Gaza. So we got fuel, which you look at, you say, well, this is just a way for Palestinians not. I mean, are they using the fuel for humanitarian reasons, or are they using the fuel to gear up for more fighting? So we'll have to see how this all plays out. And I talked to or communicated with my friend there, who I usually do letters from Israel. He's a Filipino American friend of mine. He's still there, still holding out, still fine. He's in a part of Israel where there's less fighting. He says the deal is very popular here. Guess just goes to show how Israelis value life over death. The ultra-right and Orthodox are against it because they fear it will affect the war effort. And that's reasonable. Realistically, says my friend, it will extend the war, allow Hamas to regroup a bit, but ultimately they are just putting off their judgment day. Because I don't know how you're going to get over that impasse. This is like a little hill to get to this point where hostages are released. But how are you going to get to that bigger hill, which is the stated goal of Hamas is the elimination of Israel and of Israelis? That's the genocide portion. My friend says we're fine. Seems like the war will go on for a while, but at reduced intensity. It is surreal. People trying to get back to their daily routine, and a war raging 50 miles north of you and 100 miles south of you, like living where you are, where I am, out in Northern California, and having a war 50 miles away, 90 miles away in San Francisco. So this is how people there in Israel are looking at it. Now, this is a actually more rosier picture painted by my friend in his dispatch, because earlier he said, I mean, I'm talking about maybe a month ago, he said people are resigned to the idea that the hostages are gone. This is war. They were digging in. And now there's kind of a hope, as you can tell in his language. He still feels that Hamas is just putting off its judgment day until there's some kind of movement, not just on Hamas's part, Israel's part too, but movement that will get both sides toward talking about this two-state solution, which has been dusted off. People are talking about it again after it's been kind of like put way in. It's not even on the burner. They practically packed it up and put it away. And Biden has brought it back because realistically, what else is there but a peaceful coexistence, a two-state solution? And now maybe people are beginning to say, you know, if that's ultimately our goal, maybe we better think about what that two-state solution might look like. Instead of arguing about who's committing genocide to whom, maybe the better conversation is how can we have that two-state solution? How can we have that kind of existence where before Hamas took over, the Palestinians in Gaza were actually doing much better. They were having the economy was good. There was people were working together. There were stories about people not just coexisting but thriving, and all that was not necessarily the distant past, but before Hamas really took over and essentially established themselves as dictatorial leaders there over Gaza. Now, their actions on October 7th, possibly due to the fact that Israel was in a kind of self-turmoil. Hamas took advantage of that. And now we're in this dilemma where we're trying to get out and move forward. I mean, it's one thing to call for ceasefire. Now we have it. Maybe the discussion will turn toward how we get to peace, because that's what's needed. Look, I'm Catholic, so I was attracted to this story where Pope Francis met with relatives of Israeli hostages in Gaza and Palestinians. And he's in Vatican City. And apparently there was some controversy because during the meeting, diplomats usually avoid words like terrorism and, according to the Palestinians, genocide. But Francis spoke about the suffering of both Israelis and Palestinians after his meetings with these relatives of Israeli hostages and also with Palestinians. It was arranged before the Israeli-Hamas hostage deal, so it was just coincidental. Francis didn't refer to the deal, which marked the biggest diplomatic breakthrough since the war started on October 7th. He met with 12 relatives of some of the 240 hostages held by Hamas in Gaza for about 20 minutes. And then separately, he met for about the same amount of time with 10 Palestinians whose relatives have been killed or otherwise affected by the war in Gaza. So he had two groups he was meeting with. Francis spoke about the meetings at the end of his weekly general audience in St. Peter's Square, where some people in the VIP seats wearing Palestinian scarves held up small posters showing bodies in a ditch and the word genocide written underneath. Here's what Francis said. Here we've gone beyond war. This isn't war anymore. This is terrorism. Francis's words. Please let us go ahead with peace. Pray for peace. Pray a lot for peace. I mean, what else can he say? He's got both sides there. He's trying to bridge the gap. Francis also asked for God to help both Israeli and Palestinian people to, quote, resolve problems and not go ahead with passions that are killing everyone in the end. Francis has spoken out repeatedly calling for an end to the war and has tried to maintain the Vatican's typical diplomatic neutrality in conflicts. But the Vatican is concerned about the plight of Christians in Gaza. Members of the Palestinian delegation said they were stunned by Francis's deep knowledge of the toll the war has taken on the people of Gaza and said he used the term genocide to describe it during their private meeting. The Pope using the term genocide. He knew that Gaza has no water, said Shireen Hilal, who lives in Bethlehem in the West Bank, but was part of the delegation. He knew there was no electricity. He knew that there is no medicine. So you have one person at the meeting saying, hey, he used the term genocide, the Pope. And then you have a Vatican spokesperson saying, Matteo Bruni, the Vatican spokesperson, said, Francis didn't use that term. He used the terms he used during the general audience and regardless represent the terrible situation that Gaza is living. But the Palestinians challenged that and said, essentially, they're saying the Pope is a liar. 10 people heard it, said another member of the delegation, Suhar Anastas, who left Gaza in the last week with her daughter. among those allowed to leave because she also holds a Canadian passport. Francis often causes diplomatic kerfuffles, according to this AP report, with his offhand comments. And that way, I guess he's sort of like Biden. He has used the term genocide before in reference to the Ottoman era Turkish attacks on Armenians, and more casually agreed when asked if the Catholic abuses against Indigenous peoples in Canada amounted to genocide. And you see, this is the thing about the term genocide. It's such a hot button, and it may not be. I mean, it's just political, gasoline. You throw it on something, you get a flash, and apparently the Pope used it he said some private comments that were different than the public comments, and the people who were in on the private comments, the Palestinians who the Pope met with, said, hey, he used genocide. He gets it. He used it. And then the Pope's spokesperson said, oh, no, he didn't use it. Or maybe he did, and then he just absolved himself. I mean, the Pope is God, right? He is God on earth. Anyway, so this is where we are. And so my suggestion for your Thanksvegan holiday is to not talk about who started what, but how about just having the question, how do we have a two-state solution? How do we get to that thing that would be the ideal, right? I mean, we want that. I think, right? I mean, some people still shake their heads and say, how are we going to get there if you see that this is what people... I mean, if Hamas in its charter explicitly says no Israeli state, elimination of the Israelis, how do you get to peace if that's still in play? I think if you somehow can move Hamas off and just have a general agreement with Palestinians, maybe that's a way. But that would be a worthy discussion. I think you could still have your great Thanksvegan meal without necessarily engendering hard feelings or getting in a situation where no one wants to talk to each other. So let's see. I hope your Thanksvegan conversation goes better, because that really is what's at stake, right? A kind of harmony. You want that? I mean, we have not had that in some years, right? Ever since 2016, when Trump came on the scene, and the MAGA types and the super MAGA types, and we're used to this kind of division, but now it's kind of geopolitical, it's global. I think it's important to realize we're at a new level, and then to move as we can toward, as they say, world peace. I mean, it's dinner conversation. So we'll talk more about Thanksvegan in a second. Everyone's traveling now. If you're traveling and you're stuck, a little patience goes a long way. I like to think of scenes from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. My favorite Thanksgiving, and actually holiday. It really is my favorite holiday movie of all time, because it's all about getting to the thing and And everyone can relate. We're all trying to get there. Grandma's house, our house, home. It's like backgammon, parcheesi, all in one. And we have these obstacles. And John Candy and Steve Martin, they make the best. And it's funny. So I always think of scenes from Planes, Trains, Automobiles. And whenever something comes up, I just say to myself, those aren't pillows. I mean, it works for me. I don't know if it'll work for you, but I just say, something goes wrong, rent a car at the line, TSA line, going to the airport, coming out of the airport, waiting for your bag, whatever. My magic phrase. Those aren't pillows. It never fails to bring a smile to my face. Those aren't pillows. And then I'm good again, at least for another 10 minutes or so. And so if you see me walking down the street, bellowing, those aren't pillows, those aren't pillows, those aren't pillows. Well, I'm not having a great day. So I hope, though, you have a good journey, reach your destination and all that. All right. I need to talk about this because I talked about it yesterday. Apparently, this guy, Sam Altman's coming back. He's coming back to OpenAI. Everyone is saying, oh, this would be terrible. He's going to go to Microsoft. They're going to make billions of dollars. We at OpenAI, we need to make our billions. And the money folks won. The money folks won because they're short-sighted. Because we are at, President Biden's big on talking about inflection points. We are at an inflection point when it comes to OpenAI or AI, artificial intelligence. OpenAI specifically because, most people know AI from ChatGPT, even though I use AI in some of the software things that I have. I mean, no one brags about it. I use one thing. It has AI in its name, so I should have said, oh, that's AI. But really, we haven't thought about this. I mean, the things that the folks at OpenAI and other AI companies are doing, they're going to decide what really should be a massive conversation in society. And we aren't talking about it. Some people say, AI, what is that? Is that like, it looks like, isn't that the appendage of, in French, the future tense or something, AI? You can tell I wasn't a great French student. But really, this is a conversation that shouldn't just be held at the boardrooms of these AI companies, at Google, at Microsoft. This is a societal thing because whatever they develop is going to impact all of us. And it makes me wonder, like, some people think, and this was the main dispute, this is why the OpenAI board initially fired Altman. And that's because they figured that they should go slow and consider some of the negatives. They were called the doomsayers. They're not doomsayers. They're just trying to be conservative to make sure they're doing the right thing for society. Because a lot of people think that, whatever happens with AI now could mean the future of humanity. Now, some people say, come on, Emil, the future of humanity. Yeah, stop pulling our legs. You don't really mean I mean the future of humanity. I mean, some people say 5 to 50 years. That's how far away we are from when the artificial intelligence catches up and can do better than most humans. Now, look, I just put on my glasses. You don't see that, but I mean, that's sort of the thing. AI doesn't have to put on glasses. I do. So, or right now. So you're talking about AI replacing humans in a general sense, but specifically, functionally, that means like things like jobs. I mean, that sort of hits you where it matters. When your job can be replaced because AI does it better. I was trying to write a PR press release for myself. And I went to ChatGPT and I said, give me a press release for Emil Guillermo. And it was brilliant. Well, not brilliant. It was good. I would have paid someone $20 for that. I mean, it was so superlative, saying how great I was. I would never be that great. I would never say that. I would never like blow my own horn quite the same way. But ChatGPT, I did, for goodness sakes. It did. I said, give me a PR release for Emil Guillermo. And it was brilliant. I would have hired myself. Anyway, that's what we have to worry about. And so members of the board at OpenAI, they were concerned. And Sam Altman wasn't. He's of the idea that humans will do the right thing. Say, that is so naive. That is one naive multi-billionaire. He said, okay, I'll leave. And he went to Microsoft. This is all done during the weekend. And then on Monday, he decided I'm going to go to Microsoft. Then on Tuesday, everyone was saying, oh, this is terrible. This is going to shake up the real estate markets in San Francisco and Seattle. I mean, people were concerned. It's going to like doom the tech industry. Oh. And then Wednesday, or by Tuesday, the announcement, because today's Wednesday. On Tuesday, the announcement, we're going to bring back, OpenAI is going to welcome Sam Altman back. They changed the board. They're going to have Lawrence Summers, former Harvard president and Obama guy. Oh, that must mean that they're liberal. Is that good? I don't know. To serve on boards, you just have to be famous people who are trusted by some of the founders, and they try to bring these all-star boards together so that, number one, they'll have guidance over the company and what the company does, and number two, they can raise more money. Say, look at our board. We got a star-studded board. I don't know. I wish there were a few more humanistic types. I guess you get a university president like Lawrence Summers, an economist, and you say, oh, that's humanist enough. But how about a few poets? How about a few naturalists? I don't know. I don't know who else is on that board. I mean, you got technologists, but there were some technologists who were very concerned about where the AI technology was going to go, especially, I mean, I just learned a couple weeks ago this idea of singularity, which, if you don't know that term, that's a term when AI is caught up with humans. And like I said, some people think it can happen 50 years. I mean, most boomers, if they're in their 80s, well, they won't be around in 50 years. Will they? I don't know what the technology would be. Maybe if you freeze yourself and the cryogenics are right, then you can go back and use the cryogenics to unfreeze your body. Sci-fi? I don't know. But we are in a sci-fi type of existence now, where we can maybe determine how fast or how slow we get to this place. And I'm all for slower. I mean, at some point, you're in a timeline and you're 2023 and you're going Okay, we're 2023. We can be at 2040, just like that. Just like that. We can be at 2070, just like that, with technology. We can be at 2100, just like that. Oh my God. Well, people said 20 singularity in 50 years. That would be 2080. By 2100, singularity will be the way. We'll have robots. And I mean, if you go at the timeline where they say that AI will have singularity, will maybe go beyond singularity. We'll be fighting each other. Robots and humans will have weapons that are all run by AI. Destroying whom? Oh, that looks like a human. Oh no, that's a fake. Oh, that's a deep fake. I mean, all this is stuff that we should be talking about society-wide. You know, Congress should be talking about this stuff. But you know what happens when Congress talks about it. The technologists come in, and they're so much smarter than the average congressperson. You know, the Jim Jordan types, hey, I'll wrestle you. The Mark Wayne Mullins, hey, come on, I'll beat you up. You know, and these technologists come in, they're so much smarter. They're in control. And I just saw a clip, you know, because people are upset with Elon Musk, a technologist with money. If you've got the technology and the money, you've got too much power. And when I saw an old college acquaintance of mine, Walter Isaacson, talk about that on the Today Show, they played a little clip. Man, I was scared. There's Walter, who's no dummy, right? He headed up media companies. Now he's into being the biographer of famous people, being the Boswell of famous people. He writes about famous people. I mean, just leave some famous people for us, Walter. He's got all the famous people. And he wrote Elon Musk's biography, and they asked him on the Today Show recently, does Elon Musk have too much power? Yes, he does. He says it's unfortunate he does. That's why you can't trust anyone with AI. You got to have public boards trying to figure out, how do we control this? And so far, we're too stupid or something. I mean, most people say AI. AI, is that English? Is that another language? So I don't think it's such a good idea that Sam Altman went back to OpenAI from Microsoft. Although Microsoft, it would be better with OpenAI, but OpenAI, I believe, was bought by Google, right? So it was just people saying, look, we can't let this guy go to Microsoft. And people were threatening to quit. I mean, that's how divisive this whole thing is. What is the future of mankind? We are, as Joe Biden would say, at an inflection point. Where is this going? I don't know. I just don't know. I think that someone wants to make their money, and they will be dead when the hits the fan, as they say. I mean, that's how I see it. But we should be having a national conversation, not about abortion rights. We should be talking about our willingness to abort humanity, because that's what's going to happen. AI could be for aborting mankind. And so I'm conservative in that technological sense. I'd much rather talk about guardrails, talk about a security council against AI, and literacy, so we all know how to spot the deep fakes from the not so deep fakes. I'm not a deep fake, I'm just a shallow one. But we have to figure it out. And if we don't, heaven help us. And the Pope said he didn't use the term genocide. And I like that Pope. But the Palestinian says he's lying. He used genocide. No, he said it was like mumbling our Father in Latin. All right, so OpenAI. Got to get that out of the way. We got to talk about that. We just got to, it's important to talk about. That's our dilemma. 60 years ago, November 22nd, 1963. Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, shot. 63. 1963. I mean, some people say that was like a moment like we have with OpenAI now. The Kennedy presidency, where would that have taken us? And I've been reading a number of things. You know, this story means a lot to me because, you know, I was just an 8-year-old kid when President Kennedy was shot. I know it. I was growing up in San Francisco. I know what that was like. If you were an immigrant parents, I mean, with Kennedy, there was hope. Although, frankly, I think Kennedy cleared the way for Johnson, and Johnson gave us hope. I mean, Kennedy was good, but Kennedy was more like, it was, he was, you know, Camelot, right? He was the image of some kind of American ideal fantasy, which I don't know if it would have been all that, but we were all dreamers, right? In 63. I remember growing up thinking, yeah, you know, your John F. Kennedy impression, the Boston accent. My parents didn't speak English well. They saw me do that. They said, oh, there's our white man. And because I could say, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. I said, oh, that's our boy. That's our boy. I'm telling you, a lot of memories. And when Kennedy died, how those hopes felt crushed for a second. There was John standing next to Caroline, Jackie. Oh, sad time in America. All right. Now that was 63. 20 years later, or almost 20 years later, 1983. Just before the 20th anniversary. This is how fresh things were. In 1980, just 17 years, right? I was in Dallas, young reporter. I'd go to work. I could spit on Dealey Plaza. I mean, it was right there. I can see the grassy knoll. 17 years. I could walk out my office to the parking lot, and there was the book depository building. I worked in Dallas for about a year and almost 2 years. And I swear, they really were my best TV reporter years of my life. I loved working in Dallas. You know, I was like 24, 25. To be a 24, 25-year-old kid in Dallas, man, that was exciting. Well, I mean, it was, you're single, Greenville Avenue. I mean, it was fun. It was, I just had the best time in Dallas. But I was always reminded, and I was doing hard news. I wasn't in a special role like, you know, like I evolved into doing some of the arts and the critic stuff in San Francisco. In Dallas, I was just hard. And there was no NBC presence in Dallas. And so at the station I was with, we would do stories and then send them routinely up to New York. and I get stuff on the Today Show and have whoever was the Today host. It would change. I don't think it was Jane Pauley. Well, maybe it was. Maybe Jane Pauley was there still. I'd have Today host mispronounce my name. No, it was fun. It was fun being in Dallas, but it was most fun because every time November 22nd rolled around, and they had it twice, it got to do a Kennedy piece. Like one year I did a piece on the Zapruder film. I had they were still analyzing the Zapruder film. Like, oh my God, see, there's a second gunman. Oh, see, how can the head go back? That was kind of exciting for a young reporter. Oh my God, I've only heard about this. This is like the story of our era, the assassination of JFK. And here I am at the station in Dallas, and I get to talk to these biographers of Zapruder. And I think I actually talked to, if not his biographer, then maybe one of his family members, because I found myself with a videotape of the film. And it was pretty heady. I was just a young kid in journalism, or as a reporter in Dallas, and it was, like I said, it was probably the stretch of time where I did some important work in hard news. And I was working aside that guy at 60 Minutes, Mr. He was there. And another woman who was famous because she later on became not press secretary, but an important aide to George W. Bush. So it was a good time for me. I enjoyed my time in Dallas. And so when I look back 60 years, number one, I'm surprised at how raw the JFK story was when I was there. I didn't realize that. I had people who I was working with, the cameramen, who, because I worked at the old KXAS in Dallas, Fort Worth, but out of the Dallas Bureau. And we were always seen as step kids to the big station in Fort Worth. But the beauty was you could step out anytime and just stare at the Texas Book Depository. Just walk out to the parking lot, just stare at that red building. And then you take take a few steps and then look down, and there was Dealey Plaza. And there was the grassy knoll. And you know that it was just being a part of history. And then for kicks, you'd say, oh, let's look at the Jack Ruby story. Let's go to the place where Ruby was shot. And I'd go see the DA's office. And then I had my own little JFK tour. Oh, let's go to Parkland Hospital. At the time, I wasn't vegan. And my favorite place in Dallas, Sonny Bryan's Barbecue, right there on Harry Hines. Oh my God, I don't think it's there anymore. But from there, and anytime you were at Parkland, then you just go, hey, we're here. We might as well go to Sonny's. And we go to Sonny Bryan's. His specialty was the pulled pork sandwich. Yeah. I mean, you get all the other stuff too, but the pulled pork. I don't think he called it the pulled pork. I think he just called it he had a beef and he had anyway, I'm vegan now. All these fond memories of my non-veganness are not so fond, but they're Dallas memories. And so I thought about all that. All those things came rushing back today, 60 years. The time I was growing up, 8-year-old kid in San Francisco thinking, oh my God, where's the future of America? And then later on as a 24-year-old kid reporting for the NBC affiliate in Dallas, right there, looking at Dealey Plaza and all the landmarks, thinking, God, this is history. And now 60 years later, we don't celebrate every year. Like, they didn't make a big deal 59th. They're making a big deal now. And I think it's worth thinking about what would have happened if Kennedy had lived. How different our lives would have been. Would it have been much different? I don't know. Because I think it paved the way for Johnson to come in with his Great Society, and I think it did change some of the dynamic for how people view Dallas. Because for the longest time, Dallas was like, oh, it's a hateful city. They're still trying to live that down. But I think in general, and I've lived both in Dallas and in Houston. I hate to say this, Houston. I love Houston. A little too muggy. Dallas. I was in Dallas as a slightly older guy. I was in Houston when I was 19. Dallas when I was 24. And those years made a difference. So there's a part of me that is really Texan at heart. But then, look, I'm California. And then you get the politics now, Governor Craig Abbott, Ted Cruz. Me, mention Willie Nelson. Okay, I'm down. I'm back down with you. Mention Jerry Jeff Walker. Okay, I'm down. I'm down with you guys. Mention all my friends from Austin. Oh, yeah, I'm down. To a degree. Still California. All right. Dallas. 60 years ago. So let's talk about Thanksvegan. Are you cooking? Are you smelling it already? Man. I just know that people, if you haven't started into it yet, there's still time to go Thanksvegan. Listen to the PETA podcast. The PETA podcast, wherever you get your podcast. We did it, dropped last night. And it's easy to do vegan substitutes. You don't have to kill a bird. Only because 85% of people want to eat turkey. 85, that's a lot. What if we reduced that to 60 or 50? Because 85%, that means that the factory farms kill 45 million birds a year to meet that demand. What if we can cut down that demand just incrementally? Go Thanksvegan. Go Thanksvegan. Think about your vegan origin story, or listen to others like Sarah Silverman. She's on social media talking about the time she was a kid. She went with her father to a farm. They picked out a turkey, and the farmer said, okay. And he just slits the throat of the turkey. It's here. Happy Thanksgiving. And to her credit, Sarah Silverman, the comedian, just couldn't. She went vegetarian after. It's easy to go Thanksvegan. Give the turkeys a reason to be thankful. Be thankful, of course, but give the turkeys a reason to be thankful. So, happy Thanksgiving. Oh, see, it's going to be hard. Happy Thanksvegan to all of you out there. And like I said, even if you say, oh, look, we bought the turkey already, Emil. All right, you bought the turkey already. Still time to go get that little roast that they have, the vegan roast at any of the big chains. They'll have it, just a little tiny roast for, when you're tired of the turkey, you say, let me try to have a moral bite here. And then cook the vegetables and the mashed potatoes vegan style and just try to go vegan. Maybe every other bite vegan. And see if it really matters if you have the turkey or not. I think you'll find it doesn't. It's easy to go Thanksvegan. You'll feel better. And the turkeys, like I said, Joe Biden pardoned 2 turkeys, and we killed 45 million, and we're going to eat 45 million of them. That's a sham. That's what people should be upset about. So, what you can do before your big holiday meal, pardon your own bird. Self-pardon your damn turkey. Feel good about yourself. All right. This is Emil Amok's Takeout, my takes on all things considerable here Monday through Friday. We may just repeat this show tomorrow. Or we'll just do it. But we may do it live, maybe a short one tomorrow. But we're here Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, live. And all the other times you can catch us on YouTube at Emil Amok 1, on Facebook at fb.com/EmilGuillermo.media. Also on Twitter at Emil Amok. We do this just as a way of keeping up our fighting spirit, talking about the news, talking about stuff. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you, whether you're here live or whether you're just watching a replay. I thank you. Thank you for being here. We'd like to end with a little meditation, because meditation is a way in. I'm telling you, folks, there's no such thing as need. You think you need something? You don't need anything. You're going to be bombarded with stuff. Buy this, buy that, buy this. You don't need any of it. But go inward. Love each other, but it begins with loving yourself. A little metta meditation is helpful. Self-compassion. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Or on Thanksgiving night, maybe grease. May you live with grease. No, you can oil-free. You got to go oil-free. If you're going to go vegan, go oil-free vegan. Hey, Emil Guillermo here. Till next time. Mahal Kita.